Hi, it's May. I know it sounds sacrilegious, but I do not believe in work-life balance. Now, I agree it's important to have a life, and that's hard because most of us have too many competing priorities and too little time. And yes, the extreme demands of making a living, achieving our dreams, and honoring relationships is stressing us out. Plus, the always-on nature of technology is making the whole thing worse. But I still don't believe in work-life balance. The problem I have with it is threefold. First, it's an outdated concept. For most of us, there's no longer a firm demarcation between work and life. And then the word balance. Well, balance makes me think of a fulcrum or a seesaw where you're standing in the middle of it and balancing it. When it's in balance, it's static. Nothing is moving. And when things are static, that's a precursor to death, and who wants that? Second, it's an overrated concept. Very few great things are ever achieved by being in balance, or at least not over short periods of time. Achieving great things usually requires intensity and drive, at least in bursts, followed by recovery. Third reason is it's impossible to achieve for most of us, so it is a frustrating and ultimately draining idea. Instead of work-life balance, I believe in focusing on a feeling of well-being and of being in sync with yourself. This involves 5 aspects. First, being conscious. This is about not just drifting along and being a taker, but rather knowing what you want, exercising your free will, and making conscious decisions about how to spend your time and energy. When we make conscious choices, we have an excellent chance for our actions to be in alignment with what truly matters to us. For example, my family is hugely important to me, yet I used to keep my head down and work until the task was done, no matter how late I had to stay. And without realizing it, I got myself in a situation where I hadn't had dinner with my family for months, and I only noticed when my husband finally got angry with me about it. Finally, my boss sat me down and told me he was concerned about my working too much. He pretty much ordered me to leave the office in time to be home for dinner twice a week and to come in late after taking the kids to school twice a month. Now, I am lucky to have had a great boss to help me become more conscious about my choices. But if you don't, you must learn to do this for yourself, and you will be much better off for it. Second aspect is about oscillating, recognizing that you're going to be going through different wave patterns during your day, your week, your year. In fact, that's optimal rather than targeting a static level of balance and just staying at that. The former allows you to have the whole range of highs and lows, whereas the latter focuses on staying at a moderate level. And as Oscar Wilde said, everything in moderation, including moderation. For me, that meant being able to go all out on my business during a big 3-week project, but then being able to take a break or a few days off to be with my family later in the month. It's all about achieving your optimal mix of activities over a longer time horizon rather than insisting on balancing the books every day or every week, which can drive you nuts. Third aspect is getting a dose of joy every day. When I was stressed out at work, my mother used to tell me to take a mini vacation every day to find peace. Just closing my eyes for 2 to 5 minutes and imagining myself in my favorite vacation spot. It really did make me feel better. And this is the same idea, only it's about joy rather than peace. Start by identifying those small, simple things that make your heart sing, and make sure you get some of that every day. For me, it can be as simple as playing a favorite song at full blast or dancing. These days, you can plug in your iPod equivalent and rock out for the length of a song pretty much anywhere. And I was usually able to find a conference room and duck into that. But if you can't, then worst case, there's always the facilities, right? The fourth aspect is reframing. This is about shifting your mindset to a more positive way of looking at whatever situation you're in. There's more about this in a recent post in case you missed it. Reframing is a variation on being conscious. You want to be in charge of the way that you frame things so that issues can become opportunities and problems can have solutions. This kind of inner game can really drag us down or pull us up, depending on how well we can reframe things in an energizing way. As an example, one thing that used to bother me was not being able to be at every performance or sports event for my 3 kids, and not being home to send them to school or welcome them after school. Then my mother, who's a pediatrician, told me that this actually made our children independent. And looking back, not only was she spot on about that, it also made me feel more positive about my choices. The fifth aspect is stop over-optimizing. Sometimes we put unnecessary pressure on ourselves by setting up too many constraints. then it becomes stressful to try to optimize it all and you end up feeling drained. I remember trying to keep everyone happy simultaneously. My boss, my team, my husband, the 3 kids, even the dog. Plus living up to standards of home decoration, housekeeping, and other social pressures. And my own well-being wasn't even on that list. Some of the things I did in the name of satisfying people didn't even matter to them, like folding the kids' laundry or personally sewing their Halloween costumes when I had million-dollar deals going on at work. Or feeling like I had to attend every single client meeting, even if it meant taking 2 red-eye flights back to back. Now, over the years, my husband and I have been reducing the number of constraints by getting clear on what really matters to each of us and then culling the rest. For example, we've actually called a truce on celebrating Valentine's Day since neither of us cared that much about what is essentially a fabricated holiday. And we live with a messier house than either of us were brought up in. So, stop torturing yourself about work-life balance and start focusing on having a feeling of well-being and living your life in sync with who you are and what really matters to you. Hey, if that involves a big commitment in one area and less in another for now, go with it. You are going to keep oscillating and adjusting because life isn't static, it's progressive. Let me know what you choose to do next and be sure to share your best tips on how you make things work on my Facebook page.